At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Steve Mesler. Mr. Mesler is a three-time Olympian and a world champion who won gold at the 2010 Vancouver Games as part of the four-man bobsled team. He's a director on the board of the world's largest National Olympic Committee, where he advocates for Paralympians, athlete support, and organizational transparency. Mr. Mesler co-founded and leads Classroom Champions, an award-winning NGO that uses athlete mentoring in schools to improve student achievement and mental health. He graduated with honors from our college in 2000 with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise and Sports Science. And he's a member of the Industry Advisory Board for the UF Institute for Coaching Excellence. Steve, welcome to the podium.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you, Dean Reed, faculty, distinguished guests, families that have joined us, and the selection committee for inviting me here today. And more importantly, a huge congratulations to the graduating class of 2023. One more time, please. Yeah. I'm so proud of you guys for being here today, especially after the gong show the world gave you over the last 4 years. So congratulations, you're here. As I get started, I thought a lot about why I'm here today, and when Dean Reed called and reached out, considering how much this place kicked my ass. In the spring of my freshman year, somehow, some way, I had a 1.8 GPA. It was pretty awesome. It's not funny, it happened. I mean, it's funny, but ultimately, look, I may not have known what a mitochondrial cell was, but I certainly knew what a grog was. When I left Gainesville, I certainly would not have been anyone's pick to be speaking to you today. Literally, no one would have had me on their bingo card, so thank you for inviting me. So I thought a little bit more about why I'm here, and I'm pretty sure that the root of the privilege that I've been given to be here today, as you graduate from one of the most prestigious universities in our country, is because I became the best in the world at running for 5 seconds and sitting for a minute. Sliding down mountains, wearing tights. So if you stop listening at this point, I mean, maybe hopefully your main takeaway will be that if you don't, at first you don't succeed, go find the most ridiculous thing you can to be successful at, and you'll be welcome back. All right, for real, when I heard the selection committee had chosen me to speak to you today, the first thing I asked was if I could talk to a handful of students to hear about your experiences. I honestly wish I could have spoken to all of you, but if Leah, Jocelyn, and Destiny are representative of you as a whole, I gotta say, guys, you are all way more reflective and thoughtful than I was at your age, so that makes me feel great. Leah plans to spend her career increasing equal access to healthcare. Jocelyn, who herself has type 1 diabetes, worked at Shands throughout the pandemic and plans to go into nursing. And Destiny, who wants to live a life full of travel, and she hopes to be part of the change as the level of diversity in sport increases. Oh, I like it. It's family, maybe, or just some people off the street that are big Destiny fans. And Leah also told me to be funny and tell stories. So to Leah, I say, look, I'm a bobsledder. I'm not Trevor Noah. This is not going to happen. But across everyone, there was one theme that I heard in different ways, and it was Jocelyn summed up really well. It was a feeling that I honestly really remember when I was here, you guys. And she said, just as you feel like you've got everything figured out, you go on to the next thing where you know nothing. And that landed with me because I know that feeling so well, and ultimately, whether you're starting from the bottom because you're new, or you're starting from the bottom because you're at a low point in your life, the strategies I've used are ultimately the same. You're going to encounter both in your lives, and if you're pushing yourself hard, you're going to encounter those things a lot. So today I want to share with you 2 stories about the most difficult and important choices that I've had to make in my life. Both came at low points in my life, and both taught me a lot about how to navigate the feeling that many of you have right now. And most importantly, both taught me that this is where life happens. Starting from the bottom, how we handle it and what we do with it is what turns us into the warriors that we need to be to accomplish our dreams. Now, the first choice for me came from the bottom that I want to share. Happened just honestly a few miles away from here, almost 23 years ago. As I sat on my couch, and it was 23 years ago, it was about 4 months before I was graduating from here, before I was sitting in your seats. As I sat on that couch in my apartment in what I'm pretty sure is Huntington Lake Apartments, I was 2 days out of Tommy John elbow surgery from a torn UCL, ulnar collateral ligament, from throwing the javelin. I was a decathlete on the track team when I was here. I was sitting on the coach, and I saw my athletic career flashing in front of my eyes. I dreamed of becoming an Olympian ever since my first junior Olympic track meet at the age of 11. I became a national champion in high school, and I signed my letter of intent to be a Gator to fulfill that dream. But sitting on the couch, I thought back to before I even arrived my senior year, and where I tore my hamstring. Then my freshman year, I came here, I got big, got strong, and I blew out my ankle high jumping. The same my sophomore year, the same my junior year, and my senior year, I even got kicked out of the training room. And I showed them because about 2 weeks later, I tore my elbow and had to get thrown right back in there. But the need for elbow surgery was going to be likely the final nail in my Olympic dream. But as I sat on that couch, I wasn't ready to be done. I wasn't ready to give up on the dream, and I didn't want to think that I had peaked when I was 17 years old in high school. And into my head popped a comment from one of my track coaches, a guy named Jerry Clayton, who had said, like a couple years earlier, he'd reminded me of that I had reminded him of another athlete that went from track to bobsled. I laughed it off at the time. And I hadn't thought of it since, but the despair and probably the painkillers they had me on brought it back. So I emailed the Olympic Committee with one arm. I said, I'm this big, I'm this strong, I'm this fast, can I do this? The next day I got an email back saying, yes. I had to gain weight, I had to get a bit bigger and stronger, but I was capable, and I was off to the races again. At that point, I had every reason to doubt myself. By all accounts, I was a failure here at the University of Florida. So when I look back at that moment on the couch, I can honestly say I didn't believe in myself. And here's a little secret. It's bullshit when people tell you you just need to believe in yourselves. But the people who say that are the people who have already made it. They've forgotten about the self-doubts, the fear, the paralyzation. Should I just start yelling? Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. All right. All right, no more swear words, I promise. Believing in yourself when you're down is one of the single hardest psychological tricks to pull off, especially when you have no reasons to believe in yourself. And when things are tough and you want to find ways to increase your odds of success, not try to pull rabbits out of your hat. After 5 years of injuries, how or why should I have believed in myself? What I needed to do was simpler. And here's the dependable magic trick. I just needed to believe that I was capable of believing in myself. Let me repeat that. I just needed to believe that I was capable of believing in myself. I just needed a crack. I just needed an opening of light. I just needed to choose that not all hope was lost. And then I worked my way into believing in myself. And I found a way to use my self-doubt to my advantage. Anytime I saw weakness in myself or my team, anytime that I thought I wasn't strong enough or big enough, I went after fixing it. And that was something that would come back to haunt me. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But a mentor of mine had taught me that everyone has self-doubts. So normalizing them and learning to work with them is so much more productive than spending time and energy trying to get rid of them. You got to put them to work for yourself. I was fortunate enough to have a chance to have a shot at pursuing my dream. So I gave it everything I had. I remember pushing my car. Which way is the parking garage? Which direction is the parking garage? I'm going to point the right direction. Over that way. All right. I can remember pushing my roommate's car up the ramp at the parking lot, training here at the O-Dome. I'd come back here and train every spring to get some warmth back in my body. I pushed myself harder than I thought anyone could push themselves, and I was absolutely relentless for 10 years. Because adjusting your mindset, guys, that's just not enough. You still got to put in the work. And we did it. Me and my 3 teammates, Steve Holke Holcomb, Justin Olson, and Kurt Tomasevich, did the impossible. We broke a 50-year world championship gold medal drought. And a year later, we broke a 62-year drought for our country to win gold at the Olympic Games in the 4-man bobsled. To be 31 and achieve your childhood dream is absolutely surreal. I watched our flag be raised above the Canadians and the Germans, and I looked at my parents and my sister in the crowd, and I looked back at 20 years, starting from the age of 11, of perseverance in my life being played to the tune of the Star-Spangled Banners, and guys, it was incredible. And honestly, it's not much different than the feeling of exhilaration that many of you are feeling right now about your monumental accomplishment after the incredible journey that you've been on. Now, the next chapter of my life, it was okay. We were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We flew in an F-16. We met the president. We threw up pitches. A few years later, I was selected by the Team USA Athlete Council to represent them on the U.S. Olympic and now Paralympic Committee's Board of Directors. I married my best friend. We had a beautiful little girl and now a son too. Life was good. And on top of all that, now I didn't want to think that I peaked when I was 31. That's how it works. I can probably say that Classroom Champions, which is a nonprofit that I built with my PhD sister and my PhD wife, outshines an Olympic gold medal to me. With help from over 300 currently competing Olympians and Paralympians, NCAA and pro athletes, Classroom Champions uses curriculum and programs to help teachers teach millions of kids the skills and mindsets needed to succeed in this world. Skills like goal persistence, perseverance, emotional management, leadership and teamwork skills. In other words, the kinds of skills you learn as an athlete that also help you throughout your entire school and life. But even as my life was in a better place than I could have ever imagined, the challenges inside me were real and they were building. The internal talk that pushed me to get better, the I'm not big enough, I'm not strong enough that I mentioned earlier, it works great in the structured environment of sport. But in the less structured environment that is our daily lives outside of sport, it was beginning to take its toll. I would obsess about problems and issues, including those I had no control over, and I stopped seeing the good in life. And it's weird, like when a mindset you've used to become the best in the world starts causing damage to yourself, it's really, really hard to figure out that that's the thing that's causing it. And then in 2017, I got a phone call from one of my teammates, Kurt, that Holke, the driver of our gold medal team and my close friend, had died of an alcohol and sleeping pills related overdose. A few years later, another Olympic teammate and former roommate, Pavle Jovanovic, took his own life. I slid in the Olympic Games with 6 guys. 2 of them had killed themselves by the time I was 40. And the truth is, here's the thing, I don't like talking about this stuff. This is not a natural and normal thing for me. It gives me a pit in my stomach, and it feels awkward. Like, vulnerability as an athlete is something that you're taught is a bad thing. But that's how my friends ended up where they ended up. And doing things in life that we don't like is how we get better. I mean, it's literally one of my rules of getting better. So here we go. It took me a little while to admit it, but my mental health was spiraling downwards too. And this brings us to my second life choice I found myself needing to make from the bottom. If you remember, the first life choice was just a few miles away on the couch here in Gainesville, but this one in front of me could have had significantly different consequences. Just under 10 years after climbing the podium, I was at the opposite end of the human spectrum of emotion. Every morning for years, and still to this day, I wake up before 5:30 in the morning, take that, 7:20 first period? Take that, 7:20 first period. I'd wake up at 5:30 in the morning and I'd head down to the gym to get my training in. Suddenly I found myself waking up, heading downstairs, and instead of making it to the gym, I ended up on the couch, sobbing at times uncontrollably. My wife could come down for like weeks in a row and she'd just find me there. She'd just curl up with me and just love me. And it was a cycle that I had never experienced anything like that before. And I didn't realize at the time, but luckily my wife did. I was in full-blown depression. It came on fast and it came on hard. Another life moment on the couch, except for I wasn't at the bottom quite yet. Days later, I was downtown walking to a meeting in Calgary's light rail system, which is called the C train, went by, and I can vividly remember. It was a winter day, walking down the street, and I thought, am I and others better off with me in front of that thing? And that was the moment when that triggered me to make a choice. And a choice that had to be done really simply. I could choose to simply believe that I was capable of believing myself again. When you're in a depressive pit, you can't necessarily believe. I couldn't even think straight, but if you can find just a little part of you that believes one day maybe you will believe, then that's the part to hang on to. And here's the thing I learned about depression, guys. When your brain is the problem and you can't think your way out of it, it's a really strange feeling. It felt like my brain was broken. And just like my UCL almost 20 years earlier, and just like that, physical injury, you have to go in. You can't necessarily train your way out of that physical injury. I needed help, and I had a lot of choices to make. So I chose to go to the doctor. I got on medication. I found a counselor. I called my closest friends. I chose not to be ashamed. And when that counselor heard my life story, he helped me realize that any time that I'd been faced with adversity, I found a way to change. I had choices that I needed to make if I were going to change. I could choose to look at my mental health like I did the sports injuries in my life and get help for them without shame. I could choose to remember that day on the couch here in Gainesville and remember that from one of my lowest points came the best things in my life. I could choose to realize that this was my life and this was my one opportunity. I could choose to change the way I looked at and framed my situations. I could choose to change the way I treated myself and others. I could choose to change where and how I found joy in my life. And I could, with a team around me, choose to decide that even though I've experienced the same head trauma through bobsledding as my teammates, that my teammates' fates did not have to be my own. And I'm still standing here, so you can guess which choices I made. And it was hard. It was hard. It took work, and I've had to find a way to be relentless in the way that I both treat myself and I think of things. But I'm grateful for those moments of struggle, of being at my very bottom, because they brought me to where I am now, which is a place of more peace and ease and honesty and joy that I've ever had. Today, I'm more accomplished because I overcame my bout with depression, not in spite of it. Just like I was more accomplished as an athlete because I overcame my injuries. My belief in myself is stronger, not because I never doubted myself, but because I did, you guys. So Jocelyn and anyone else nervous about the uncertainty of the future, remember that this feeling, this is where life happens. The uncertainty, the self-doubt, drink it in, absorb it. You've already accomplished so much by graduating today. And now as you go into the next chapter of your lives, as you embark on new adventures and challenges, remember this. You don't have to believe in yourself, not fully. You just have to choose that one day you will. And in the meantime, you guys, you be relentless, you find your cracks to go through, and you don't let anyone stop you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I truly, truly wish each and every single one of you the absolute best. Go Gators!